Good afternoon and welcome back to Anything But Hold'em. We are here today with the weekly round 2 once again. Today it's fixed limit Omaha High Low. This is of course the tournament that you get a ticket to when you win one of the astronomer free roll tournaments. So this is where we turn our astronomer tickets into money, because it's a $2,000 prize pool. Usually 700 or so places pay out, and usually top prize is somewhere in the $200 range, and min cash is usually in the $1.10 range. I'll have a quick look at that here in a second once I get set up. I have just bought myself a new computer, so I had to redo all of my stream graphics and everything from scratch here on the broadcast software. So if things look a little bit different, that's why, and that's also why I'm still setting things up here today. So we're going to throw a few more things here up on the screen. Let's get our lobby going. Let's get our lobby going up here. Let's get our lobby going up here. That's that one, I think. That looks like the right lobby to me. We're going to fold this. This pair of fours. You could probably play that, but I think we're going to get rid of it for the most part. Right, so let's move this guy down here out of the way a bit. Let's put him underneath of the table. There we go, like that. That way you can sort of keep track of what's going on there. Number of people left. I have also got a, for the record, no limit hold'em game going on off stream. It is the Premier League Skill League game, Premier Skill League game. So it is going on, so I might occasionally pause when I'm talking to you while I do that. Let's get your chat window up here so you can see what you're saying in real, well, not real time. I was going to say in real time, but it's actually not in real time. It's actually 3 minutes late what you're seeing there on the screen, but that's cool. We are on a 3-minute delay, as is usual with our stream here today. This one, we need to put up this guy, and boom, and there's our Twitch chat. Rolling along. So there we go, there we go, there we go. We've got a 7-3-4 queen over here, 2 suits. I think we're going to get involved in this hand. For the record, I came into this fairly, well, not fairly late. I came into this late today. I actually didn't start until about 12:05 because I was doing some other things. So now that we're back, it's good to be going here. Should be coming up live here on the stream very soon, I think. There we go. Looks like she's coming up on the stream now. These are our low draws are getting bad, and we only have one of our flush draws coming into possibilities, but I don't think it's time to get away yet. That's obviously not the flush draw we were looking for, but we can still keep going a little bit if we go. Looks like I'm having some issues with my chat, as you can see on the window there. I'm not getting connected for some odd reason. That's happened once before, but what can we do? So no low, no high. We're pretty much out of this hand. We've got to be out of this hand at this point. We've got no value here whatsoever, so it's time to go away. So yeah, we're obviously folding out of this hand now. There's really nothing we can do with it. There's no way that we can make it into a winning hand, as far as I can tell. So we're just getting rid of her. We're just getting rid of her. 5-5, 6 king. We've only got one suit. Don't really think that we've got enough in either direction to be thinking about playing this hand, so I think we just fold it out pre. Looks like we maybe do have some chat going. So if anybody's out there watching, let me know what's going on. Say hello. It's a nice testament to how easy this open broadcast software is to use. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, I bought a new computer recently, and I had to reset things up here. Now, obviously, I didn't lose my graphics, but I was silly enough not to save all of my scene designations from the previous computer. And it really took me only 10 minutes pretty much to recreate all of my scene stuff. Now, I don't really do terribly complicated scenes here, obviously, but it really only took me a couple minutes to recreate all of the scenes from scratch with my original graphics. So pretty impressed by that. It's actually a pretty decent bit of software. That's open broadcast software. That's what I'm using to actually create the raw stream here on my computer with. The whole thing is a pretty incredible, actually, endeavor that I've gotten here because it's all free software. Um, and it was all something that I was able to put together in about half an hour total to get from concept to actually sending out my voice on the stream. So it's kind of interesting that way. A very unique time we live in. It's pretty inconceivable, even from when I was a kid in the '70s, to think about even being able to decide to broadcast to the world and then being able to do it. Well, in theory to the world. Usually I'm broadcasting to 6 people, but in theory to the world. Um, Never mind to be able to do it easily. That's the thing. It was so easy to get this done that really, it was just a piece of cake to get up and doing this. There's the world famous anything but Hold'em snow cam going on. We had a bit of snowfall last night. It's actually been very nice here past few days, weeks. Get rid of that in the high-low game, I think. Actually been very nice here over the past little while. We did get a pretty wicked blizzard last night that dumped about 3 inches of snow by the look of things on the ground. But it's a nice sunny day out there now. It's all melting into a nice sheen of ice everywhere, which just makes things wonderful to go around and have fun. And actually, these kind of days are nice because it's crunchy snow and it's nice and sunny and it's warm outside and it's so it's kind of nice to be in Canada on these sorts of days, even though there's snow on the ground and you know not the safest driving conditions in the world. It's been a bit of a break since I think it's been a week since I was back on the stream here. I had a bit of a busy week this week, so I didn't really have a chance to stream anything. My company Christmas party going on, and a few other things like that going on. So I think I'm looking at gonna revamp the stream a little bit for the beginning of the year. I think I've sort of accomplished. I've been thinking about it over the last while. I think I've sort of accomplished the goal that I had when I set out on this initial sort of streaming venture, which was to introduce people to mixed games and to games other than No Limit Hold'em. I think I've done that. We've played through pretty much all of the variants in one form or another, either as part of a larger mixed game or on its own. Um, so as far as introducing games to people, I think we've sort of shot our load at this point. I think we've played everything that is new in poker, and so there's an example. I think on my YouTube archive um, there will be examples of every there will be examples of pretty much every game that you can play in poker other than No Limit Hold'em out here. And actually, if you look hard enough, there's even an example, at least one example of No Limit Hold'em on here when I threw a Hold'em stream up on the Hold'em table up on the stream. For a while after I was finished with something else, or I believe I put a final table. Yeah, no, actually that's right. I put a final table up while I was playing something else because I made a final table of a Hold'em game, so I threw that up as well. Um, but as far as the introduction of games and the explanation of how to play and the sort of basic strategy of each individual game, we done that. That's been done. It's covered. So I think it's time to move on and move into a slightly higher level here for this. So I'm looking to revamp the stream for the new year, and I'm going to be focusing more on playing towards higher payout goals. It's all well and good to play around in the astronomer free rolls and the weekly round two and so on like that, but that's swimming in the little ponds, really. And we need to start swimming in the big pools. So I think that the sort of focus of the new season when we come into going to start season 2 in the new year, I think. And when I come into the new season in the new year, I think the point of it is going to be to start working our way up towards some of the higher buy-in non-Hold'em tournaments that run weekly here on Stars. Equally, we'll be working towards those sorts of tournaments in any of the festivals like the W Coops and Scoops and stuff that come up over the course of the year. We'll be looking to play the off Hold'em games in those ones quite a bit as well. Haven't really had a bunch of hands to play with much here. This one's fairly minimal. I mean, we flopped 2 pair at this point, so obviously our high is developing well. But anybody who's working on any sort of a low isn't in hugely great shape on their low, but they are way ahead of us because we don't have one. With the 5 there, with the paired 5, we simply don't have a low. Well, we've just developed into a flush draw as well. We've improved on our 2 pair to a larger 2 pair, so I think we're probably relatively happy with that. I think we should probably put money in this to try to maximize our value in the pot. The question is, do we want to raise against a Sancho fellow here? I think just a call is probably the way to go here. So that's hit us our straight draw. So I think our flush draw. So I think we're gonna keep throwing keep throwing chips in here because we've got the flush. Now, it's not the best flush in the world. Obviously, he could be on a king or a queen flush, which would have us beat. But there's only two flushes to beat us. So we're on the third nuts at this point. So I really don't think that we can get away from this at any point. And in fact, I think we want to put as much money into this pot as Sancho will let us put in. Yeah. Fact is, I mean, we had the third nuts there, so you can't really do much. Can't really do much there. If there's a low, there's a low. Then you're just going to split those. That's just the way it goes in that situation. I don't think you can ever give up the flush there. And in fact, I think you have to value it so much that you're putting as many chips as the other player will let you in. Now, this is a really pretty high-low hand, obviously. 2, 3, 4, 6 is pretty nice to develop into straights for high and a really, really, really solid low hand. So you really want to be involved in a hand like this. Ace is, I mean, we've just hit nut low, so we're pretty happy with that. We've got straight draws out the wazoo. So we're putting as much money into this pot as the rest of the players will let us, I think, at this point. The worst case scenario at this point is that we're getting quartered because somebody has a lower or somebody has the same low draw with us. But I mean, I just simply can't see how I can't put a ton of value on this hand at this point and super value it. I mean, if obviously there's a club flush that's just come in there, so my low draws, or I mean my high hands are pretty weak at this point, but I'm still playing the nut low. And when you're playing the nut low at this point, you've got to keep putting money in the pot because the most likely scenario is that you maybe get somebody who's trying to split high pots, and you scoop the low. So you really need to be involved. I mean, I really need to be involved in this. I know I'm taking some of this pot, so I'm never folding. And I think that because I'm always taking some of this pot, I'm still always taking some of this pot. So I think I just have to keep piling chips in as much as I can, and if guys keep raising me, I have to keep piling the chips in at the same time because I've got the nut low. So I mean, I'm here, right? There's really nothing else that I can do other than try to put money into the pot as much as possible. Quartered, as I said, because we only had because we split the nut low and he had the straight high, or the flush high. Obviously, that's a pretty lucky outcome for him in that sense. Splitting the low with us is one thing. Um, Backing into the flush there when we have so many low straight draws off of that flop really is an example of him sucking out pretty seriously on that. But hey, that's the way poker goes, and you just got to roll with those when those happen. I don't think that my play. I don't think there's anything wrong with my play because putting as many chips in the pot as I possibly could there with the best possible low hand is always going to be something that gives me chips back at the end. When I'm three-handed like that, I'm almost always going to come out, even when I get quartered, I'm going to come out, sort of worst case scenario is I'm going to break even when I get quartered in those situations. The only real The sort of worst case scenario there, and the only real problem is if all three of us have the deuce three to split the low, and when I get, I'm not exactly sure what that's called, but when I have to split the low three ways, that's a bit of an issue. Now that's a hugely unlikely scenario where three players are in the hand with deuce three. There, three players in the hand with ace deuce is far more likely than three players in the hand with deuce three, just because of I mean, obviously with the way the cards fall, it's just as likely, but with the way people keep hands and fold hands, the deuce three is a far less likely one to have three ways or even two ways for that matter. It's a little surprising to see two deuce threes out there on that one. Alrighty, I think we're gonna see a street or two on this, just because we got two suits and we've got some relatively decent straighty type stuff happening. The straighty type stuff has happened for us. Now we've got something of a sucker version of that straighty type stuff, because obviously the 9 queen is a lot better than our 9-7 on this board, but I don't think we can get rid of it. I mean, I don't think we can fold at this point. That's pretty silly. You know, I don't think that we want to be valuing it to the point where we're chucking chips into the pot, of course. But, well, now that 9 is just a horrible card for us, obviously, because it means that anything like a Queen X, where X is in Jack to 8 range, beats us now. Queen King beats us now. There's just a crap load. Any sort of Queen X hand that's up there beats us. So I think we got to get out of hand now, especially with the flush draw coming in too. Yep, there you go. Sancho dude's just definitely getting the cards today. He's a bit of a card rack so far by the look of the way it's gone. 2699. Think you want to see some cards with that for sure if you can. On a fairly, I mean, if you can see the flop cheaply, I think you probably want to here. There's not going to be much for low draws happening here. Got a bit of a club thing going, but given that there's 2 overcards to our board pair and we didn't hit our trips, I think we're just going to get out of the way here. Yeah, so no low. We would have been playing a pair of 9s and 10s at this point, which I think is going to be behind Sancho's. Yeah, behind the quads. We can't beat quads. We can't beat quads, folks. Get rid of that, I think. It's obviously a very pretty hand in Omaha High, but I think in Omaha High Low, you're sort of diluting yourself into the strength with it. Now, it would have turned out pretty good for us on the flop, obviously. We've got the 6 ace plays pretty well into that 5-3 low, although the ace deuce still has us capped, and so does an ace 4 have us beat, but it basically means that we're sort of third not low, which isn't terrible. Now, the set of jacks would have made our lives very nice as well. So obviously, in this particular case, if you're being results oriented, we wanted to be involved in this hand, but I just don't think that it's going to pay off often enough. It's certainly not going to pay off like this often enough to. So we would have lost low there, but we would have taken high from him. So we would have split that pot. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think obviously, if you're results oriented, that was a bad fold. But I think if you're looking at the strength of the hand in a high-low scenario, I'm not likely going to scoop many pots with that, and I'm also not likely going to take um, necessarily a ton of highs with that. It might be worth seeing a flop if you can get to the flop cheap. So maybe it was a mistake to fold that way, but I think it's one of those where you definitely don't have a hand until you've seen the flop. Right, so the deuce is obviously not the friendliest card for us. It means that a 3 ace is ahead of our 4 ace, but I don't think that's enough of a problem for us to get away from. The pair of deuces obviously doesn't do much for our high because our pair of fours is better than that anyways. Um, but it does give us, obviously, another deuce gives us trips and all that jazz. So I don't think we can obviously go anywhere. Another deuce gives us trips. Didn't I just say that? I just said that. Uh, so 4 on the river would give us a full house. I'm just putting that out there for the, since the dealer seems to be listening to what I'm saying. 4 on the river would give us a full house, which would be nice. Of course, deuce on the river to give us quads too, but I don't need to get greedy. I checked there. It's more of an inducing thing in that I want to make sure that people like Sancho are going to put money in this pot. Now, obviously, a deuce 6 or a deuce 9, I am behind 2, but I've got the nut non-pair deuce at this point with the deuce ace. So, do I want to raise? That's the real question here that I'm trying to figure out. Now, in theory, I checked so that I could check raise, but I also checked so I could check a call instead of working to a raise later down the road. Now, that's a pretty good card. It does mean that a 3-4 has got me for high. And obviously the ace-3 has got me for low. This could actually be one of those hands where I end up losing both hands because I'm just slightly worse on both hands. Quartered. That's not a terrible result, not a great result. Nice example of a hand that you'd play in Omaha high probably, but you're not really going to get involved in Omaha low because there's no low possibility whatsoever. Being so early in possession as well, I don't think it's going to be profitable all that much. You might play that when you're late in position and you have a chance to act after everybody else has. But in this case, I think early position for under the gun, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it, I think. And it wouldn't have turned out terribly well for us. Let's have a look at the lobby here. We had 7,880 people enter into the tournament. 788 places paid out, so it's obviously a 10% prize pool in this one. Top prize is $215 for first, and we got a min cash of $1.10, just like I thought. There are 6,500 people left, just under now, and our position right now is a 3,000th, roughly. So not doing terrible, not doing great. Got a break coming up in 17 minutes, so we're getting close to the end of the first hour. Things sit there. This is a hand that we're probably we're obviously, I mean, we obviously check through to see a flop if that's our option. I don't think we put any money in with it though. If it raises to us, then I don't really think that we got no low. Our highs are pretty marginal. Our draws for highs are pretty marginal at this point. So obviously we can check through and see a flop, but we wouldn't have put any money in pre-flop, I don't think, with that hand. Obviously, it's come out nicely for us. The fact that we had a big limp around pre-flop means that I think I want to put money into this pot. I think I want to come out betting here, make it look like I'm kind of donk betting out of position to induce this sort of action from our friend Sancho. And I think that at this point I need to be working on Sancho's. That is just the worst card in the world for us unless we pair on the river, obviously, because Sancho has been hitting these flush draws like crazy. Now, the fact that he didn't raise there makes me think that he doesn't have diamonds in this particular case. He could easily have a 5-7 though, or something like that that's hit a straight now. So there's like straights like crazy out there, which means our set is pretty weak. And in fact, I think our set at this point is so weak. I think our set is so weak that we have to fold. This could be a bad fold, but I mean, I know I didn't have low, and yeah, we did have a flush out there for the high, so there was no way that clearly the set looks pretty weak at that stage. You usually like to think of a set as it's a pretty strong hand, but there are obviously situations where the set is worth virtually nothing. And that was one of those examples. Just got to throw it away. Just got to throw that shit away. No low on that one. The pair of nines isn't really strong enough for me to be playing this as a high only sort of situation. And no low means I'm getting out of the way. Out of position as well, small blind. Worst position on the table. All adds up to get the fuck out of Dodge. Alrighty, ace three with a couple of suits, 6-3-8. All of our hands play into possible lows, so I think we're definitely involved in this pot. On the button, it's an even stronger hand because of the position and the things that we're allowed to do. Is it strong enough that I want to raise pre? I don't really think I want to raise until I see what the flop looks like. Obviously, these sorts of hands can be an issue in that sense. We got the nut flush draw. We've got the second nut low draw. We've got straight draws with our 6-8. This pretty much flopped as good as it could possibly flop for us without actually pairing a card or something. And in fact, it's probably flopped better for us than pairing a card would have. Depending on how the turn of the river go. We still got the nut flush draw. The hearts have developed now, so if the hearts come in, we don't have that. But I think still need to put money in this pot. I've still got up and down straights with the 6-8, although the up is a little bit weaker now that the 10 is there. But I've still got second nut low and the nut spade draw, so I'm still along with that straight hitting. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 now has been hit, and obviously the 8 jack is going to beat me, but there is no low. Alrighty, so we took one off of Sancho. I think we're going to fold that with the raise from Yanka. I think that that indicates enough strength that we can pretty safely get out of the way with a hand as weak as 3389 for a low. Lots of low and flush possibilities going on out there. Ooh, Sancho gets crippled with that one. Well, not really crippled in chips, but certainly got nailed on there. Lost both ends. You might consider playing that with the two hearts, but there's really very little else to. Jack Queen Ace obviously has some Broadway possibilities, but again, that's much more of a high Omaha high hand than it is an Omaha high low hand. Pair of tens here is, I mean, again, this would be the sort of hand that you jump all over in an Omaha high game. Suited 10 jack, pair of tens. You'd sort of be ignoring the deuce in an Omaha high game, but in a high low game, there's just not. I mean, you're giving away half the pot to start with no low, and it just is you can certainly win big pots with a hand like that. But I think that when you put money in pre-flop with hands that are marginal low or that don't have a low in this game, you are basically working against the odds. It's like if Usain Bolt suddenly decided that he was going to start running all of his races this year with 5 pound weights on his ankles. Um, well, it'd be a pretty silly thing for him to do. He wins all of his races when he doesn't win weights on his ankles. And yeah, he might still win the races when he's got weights on his ankles, but why would you handicap yourself like that? Right? If you can win the race, why handicap yourself like that? That's just arrogance, saying that I'm so much better than you, I can handicap myself and still take the pot down. It's very much the same principle here. If you don't have a low, you're handicapping yourself right off the start. You're basically saying, look, um, I don't need to run this race at full speed. I'm going to tie 5 pound weights to my ankles, and we're going to run that way. How does that sound? And if I'm your opponent, I'm going to go, that sounds fucking great. I tell you, that really sounds good. I'm gonna go with that. So yeah, basically, when you don't have low hands in a high-low game like this, you probably don't want to play them very often. Again, this is another one. We obviously do have a low of some sort here, and the two suits make it worth playing, but I think we'll get out of the way on this as well. One of the things I have to keep reminding myself with this is that the level of play in these weekly round twos is generally fairly high. In the astronomer free rolls that play into this one, I can often bully people in ways that I just can't do in these weekly round twos because people are more aware of what I'm doing and they're more aware of the strength of their own hands, and so it's a much more nuanced game here on the weekly round two than it ever is on the astronomer free roll that leads into this game. But that said, there's also not everybody in this tournament is a super high-low player. This is more the sort of hand that I'm willing to get involved in, even early position in a high-low game. It's obviously not nearly as pretty as something like the 10-10 Jack Deuce that we had the other day with the suited 10 Jack. It's not pretty in that sense, but we've got great low draw possibilities here. We've got the suited spades. It's really and we've just hit the nut spade draw, which is a nice way for that to pull out. And the nut low draw, for that matter. So, I mean, I think at this point, putting money in this pot is the only thing we can do. We either take it down here or we build value for when one of the 6,000 cards that could possibly hit us on the turn of the river to make our hand hits us. Obviously, 6,000 is a slight exaggeration. That's not the best card in the world for us, obviously, but it's not the worst one either. Means we no longer have the nut low, we now have the second nut low. We missed our spade draw. Yeah, makes sense. Pretty reasonable way for that hand to have played out. There's a break coming up in a couple of minutes, I think. 3 minutes time, I will be off to do my custodial duties once again. Down to just over 5,000 people left in the tournament now, so it's not small, but we're getting down. We've lost 2,500 people, more than 2,500 people so far. Three, 5 queen with diamonds. I think we'll see a flop for cheap on that. That is not the flop we were looking for. Pairing the 5 is terrible for our low draw. Seeing all the spades is terrible for our lack of spade hand. I think all in all, that's just a fold is what that is. Even DeSancho, who we know is playing hyper aggressively at this point and could be on anything there. He's been involved in every single hand that we've played so far. Or pretty much every hand that we've been playing. This is not a hand that's one to get involved with. Marginally, worked out marginally well. Being results oriented once we see the flop, but even still, I don't really think that we've got a ton of value at this point. Our low draw is non-existent. We did just back into a heart draw, but better heart draw now that the ace is out on the board rather than buried in somebody's hand. We missed it though, and we don't have anything else to go with it. So a pair of sixes and fours, which is going to be a pretty bad hand at this stage in this game. I think we can actually make a low out of this, but it's a pretty crappy low as well. So I don't really think that we'd be winning any. Being results oriented, we wouldn't have won any money in this pot. We'd have been. That Sancho is just getting cards like crazy today. So we got up and down. Got up and down straight draws. Marginal low. I don't really think I need to throw money into the pot at this point. I think we can check back for pot control. Our low draw is working out well for us now. Again, I don't really think we need to put a ton of money into this pot. That's about the best card that could have come on the river for us, low draw wise anyways. So at this point, putting money in the pot is the only thing we can do logically. We've got the nut low, so we're going to take half this pot anyways. We're going to have a piece of the low, I should say, because we could always be splitting. There could be other ace threes out there that we're splitting with. But nice little hand there to go into the break with. Give us some chips, put us up to 2,500 almost. Gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few. We're back here with Anything But HoldEm. We're doing the weekly round 2 fixed limit Omaha high-low. I've also got the Premier Skill League running off on the on another table off the stream. Was a pretty good hour, I think, for the first hour. We're increased our chip count from 1,500 up to 2,000, or to 2,435. So we've gone up almost 1,000 chips, which is not a great hour, obviously, but not a terrible hour either. Can't complain too much. Anytime you've got more chips than you did before, you should say that's a good thing. We are, as usual, on a 3-minute delay. I don't think it's a terrible concern for people sniping my cards at this point, but I just have theoretical issues with doing this live with my whole cards being shown. I could cover my whole cards, I guess, but kind of the whole point of this series, at least for me, is to talk about the hand that I'm playing at the moment. So if I'm covering my whole cards, kind of defeats the purpose of talking about the hand I'm playing. Because if I'm talking about the hand I'm playing, then covering the whole cards is irrelevant because I've already told you what I'm playing. I see it's a bit of an issue there. So I think the 3-minute delay is probably the best solution for all of that. I can show the whole cards, I can talk about the hands. I don't really have to worry about people that I'm in the hand with at the moment actually sitting and listening to me as I'm talking about that. That's really the key that I'm worried about, which isn't a huge issue at the moment, but as the stream gains in popularity, that may become an issue. Should be starting back up here pretty quick. This is a hand you might see a flop with, just because you've got lots of straight possibilities in the 6-8-9 area. The 4-6 also obviously plays. 4-6-8 obviously plays in the straights. So you've got good wrap possibilities up and down through there, through the middle, and 3 of your 4 cards are playing into lows. So I really think that this is worth seeing a flop with. Obviously, the strength of your hand is greatly dependent on what comes on the flop with a hand like this. So putting in a ton of money pre-flop is probably not going to pay you off the way you want it to a lot of the time. But certainly getting in for cheap flops and seeing what develops, being willing to fold hands when the flop doesn't work with you, I think you're going to win. I think you're going to win more than your share that way on hands like this. Looks like Sancho is timing out. Must have been taking a long crap break for the break. Oh, there we go. He's in anyways. So we got Yanka. We got Yanka making this pot expensive. I think we're still in. I have a feeling that Sancho is going to raise to 300. I think we're going to end up capping this at 400. That seems like well, of course, no. Sancho's MO is call behind. That's Sancho's MO. So we hit a pair of nines. We've got flush or straight draws. Obviously, the flush makes all of those high hands pretty weak at this stage. But I don't think weak enough to get away, and especially since we've got semblance of low draws. They're not very good low draws. We probably shouldn't even really be thinking that we've got a low draw with the 4-6 now that I'm thinking about it. And frankly, I think we shouldn't really be thinking that we've got much of a hand here at this point, even with the draw. So I think we're getting out of it. Hammer, how's it going? Good to see you here. Good to see you. Well, it's not. It's not so much that we've still got plenty of snow, Hammer. It's that we have snow again. We were actually snow free for about a week here with a nice weather phenomena that we call a Chinook, which is warm winds blowing in off the Pacific Ocean, hitting the Rocky Mountains, dropping all of their moisture on the west side of the Rocky Mountains in British Columbia, and then coming over into Alberta, where I am, as a nice, warm, westerly wind that is very dry and warms us up by 20 degrees in the wintertime and melts all of our snow and gives us quasi-summer-like conditions, well, quasi-spring-like conditions, I guess, in the middle of winter, which is quite nice. We just got finished with one of those, and last night it dumped on us again, so we're back to 3 inches of snow once again. It's funny, I've got a new computer with more RAM and a graphics card with more memory on it as well, twice as much, 2 gigabytes instead of 1 gigabyte. I now have 12 gigabytes RAM instead of 8 gigabytes of RAM in my old machine, and I am now streaming, and for the first time on the new machine, the OBS is telling me that the CPU usage is high, warning, and I should turn down my settings. I'm like, what the heck? I just bought like a machine that's twice as powerful as the last one, and you didn't tell me that on the last one, so what gives, buddy? So I have to look at what my settings are, see if my settings are a little different than the previous machine. Maybe this one, maybe what I did is I'm going to have a closer look. I actually got an AMD CPU with this one instead of an Intel CPU. So cross-comparing the CPUs, even by the megahertz rating, isn't always going to be a terribly useful isn't going to be a terribly useful endeavor usually. So you're winning money at No Limit Hold'em. That's no need to hide behind the couch for that. If you're winning money at anything in poker is cool. I've actually been playing a fair bit of No Limit Hold'em over the past little while as well. I wouldn't say I'm winning at it necessarily these days. Um, but it's fun. And as I said, we don't have a hate on for Hold'em here. We just think that other people do it as well or better than I could. So I'll leave that to others. So far, it's been a pretty good hour. Increased the chip stack a little bit. We just lost some, obviously, um, in that last hand, but still above the starting chip stack. I think we're below the tournament average at this point, but I don't really ever. Yeah, we're a bit below the tournament average. I don't really ever care about that at this point, at this stage of the game. At this stage of the game, what's important isn't how many chips you have in your stack, even how many big blinds you have in your stack, or even your relative position of your stack to the rest of the field. What matters in this stage of a limit tournament, in my mind, is only whether or not you have enough chips in your stack to make the plays that you have to make at the times that you have to make them. And what that essentially means is that if you've still got a stack where you can cap the betting of every round, still have chips left in your stack at the end of that, then you're doing okay. I'm not entirely sure that I'm at that stage still. I think that if I was to cap every betting round, I'd probably be all in by certainly on the river, and kind of probably somewhere near the end of the turn, I'm thinking is where I'd be all in with the stack I currently have. But I'm still pretty happy. I mean, it's pretty rare that you cap all rounds, and if you cap all rounds and don't win the pot, there's something wrong with what you're doing. If you basically, when you're capping all the rounds, you're doing it with the nuts, and you're doing it with the firm belief that the other player is an idiot because they're continuing to cap the betting with you, because you know you have the nuts and you know that they can't possibly have a better hand. Now, obviously, that sometimes becomes an issue when there's draws that could outdraw you down the road in later streets. But it really is at the point when you're capping all the rounds, you pretty much know that you pretty much know that you're good and that you're going to win the money. In the high-low game, obviously, you could be capping rounds when you know you're good on one end, but not necessarily good on the other end. Usually, you'd be playing the nut low there and a speculative high hand. In those cases, you're not usually going to do that the other way around. But obviously, if you're playing something like four of a kind, four aces, you're going to play that pretty aggressively pre. This is a very nice high-low hand. Don't really think. I mean, I obviously could put more money in pre-flop with that. It's not going to be the most profitable play in the world, I don't think, most of the time. But thank you, I appreciate that. Well, like I said, I mean, I pulled the same graphics up, but it really, I don't know. We'll have to see how this computer plays. I did drop my frames per second rate from 30 to 20 because it occurred to me that playing online poker probably doesn't require 30 frames per second of video output. In fact, I could probably get away with 5 frames per second, and you people watching would not even notice the difference, except maybe when a car drove by on my snow cam. So nice, $200, second and a 330. That's a good deal. I really need to go over and play full tilt more often. I don't play over there really ever at all. This is going to be terrible, especially as somebody who's kind of quasi in the poker media as well. I find their interface, it looks to me like it was designed by a 6-year-old kid in a grade 1 art class. With all the cartoon icons, and it just looks so cartoony to me. Right, so we backed into the nut low. We got 2 pair. I think we're gonna cap this out because we've obviously got the nut low, and pretty happy with the nut low. Now, obviously, we could be quartering with Eagle Tech if he's got a nut low with us as well. But this is a little frustrating. I am timing out here. I did actually click the button. You can see that I clicked the button to raise. Maybe that looks like I'm Hollywooding. That would be cool. Yeah, so we're gonna split that. I mean, obviously, I could have been quartering with Eagle Teak, who's also had an ace deuce, and also the high. So that's a potential, but I can't really get rid of the ace deuce there, and I think that I have to assume that it's got value. For the record, Eagle Teak is a name that I've definitely played against before. It's definitely a name I recognize. I can't exactly say where. But he's definitely someone I've played against. That's not a high-low hand. 6-3 obviously could play for low, but it's not going to play very well for low, usually. Yes, if you excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. I just had a coughing fit there in the middle of the microphone. Yes, if you're not willing to play Ace Deuce Deuce 3, you should not be playing high-low tournaments. Frankly, if you're not willing to put money in with that hand, you shouldn't be playing high-low tournaments. In fact, I think if you're not willing to put money in with the hand that I'm seeing in front of me right now, 5-5-3 ace, you shouldn't be playing high-low tournaments because this is a very pretty high-low hand. We've got spades working with us, nut spades, lots of ways to go for spade straight flushes. Well, not lots of ways. I guess actually having three spades in the straight range here in the wheel straight range makes, obviously we can't hit the wheel straight. We could hit a deuce 4-6 to hit a straight flush of spades. But I really don't think there's any excuse to fold, nor should we be looking for uh, nor should we be looking for reasons to fold. So we paired our ace, which isn't great for our low draw, obviously, but the 5-3 isn't horrible in this context either. So I think I'm going to stay involved. We do have backdoor spade possibilities, which have just disappeared. The 3 is really not a very friendly card for us. I don't think we can get away from the hand at this stage. Yeesh. I think at this stage we could probably get away from the hand because we have no low anymore. The low's really marginal now. Aces and threes. Aces and threes could still be the best hand, high wise, but I really think that the speculation when people are capping this much is probably not going to pay off for me. Yeah, we weren't taking any of that money. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. I just find it really. I find sitting down at a PokerStars table feels very much like sitting down at a live poker table. Um, I also play on PKR from time to time, which has a really cool 3D interface and so on like that. And in a way, that feels more like sitting down at a live poker table. But in some ways, PokerStars does. And what the reason that I say that is because what PokerStars to me is the ideal interface. How can I put this? It's the ideal translation of the live poker experience into the virtual world because obviously there's parts of the live poker experience that just don't make sense in the virtual world. One of the things with PKR, I mean, PKR's interface is cool, but it chews up so much graphics power and chews up so much visual space on the screen by doing the 3D interface. And after playing a few rounds of it, you realize that the 3D interface is completely superfluous to what you're doing there, which is playing poker. Now, the quote unquote 3D interface when you're playing live is not superfluous. It's part of the experience. It's, you're sitting at a table with live chips and you're feeling there's the tactile, there's all of your senses getting involved. Um, that can't happen in the virtual world. You've only got basically sound and sight senses to work with in the virtual world. So um, trying to translate that sort of that aspect of the live poker experience into the virtual poker experience, I think is still going to come up short. And PKR kind of shows me that it's kind of I I mean I do like the interface, but it feels like I'm playing a game version of a live poker experience, whereas PokerStars feels like somebody's taken the live poker experience and translated it into the virtual world. I don't know if that distinction makes sense or not, but yeah, I mean, I really think that the PokerStars interface is there. People spend a great deal of time thinking about how to translate poker into the virtual world, thinking about what needs to be part of the virtual experience and what aspects of the live game detract from the virtual experience when you try to replicate them, um, and so on. And I think that Full Tilt goes too far in the sort of cartoony virtual sense, and I think PKR goes too far in trying to recreate uh, the live experience in the virtual world. They both come up short in different directions, I think, whereas PokerStars kind of hits the sweet spot, I think, right in the middle. Yeah, I've never really looked at Full Tilt's lineup of off Hold'em games. I don't even know if they play off Hold'em, frankly. Likewise, none of the other sites. PKR doesn't play anything but Hold'em. No, I lie. I think there's Omaha. I think there's Pot Limit Omaha on PKR too, but that's it. Um, so one of the reasons I haven't really bothered to go anywhere else for this series is because I've sort of assumed that my game selection would be way better here all the time. Um, that could be a biased assumption because, like I say, I haven't actually looked very much. That's just sort of the impression that I've had going in. The only problem I have with PKR, well, one of the only problems I have with PKR is they won't take my money. I've tried three different deposit methods, and they simply will not accept none of my credit card gets rejected when I try to. Yet it works fine when I deposit onto Stars um, or purchase other things on the net. So obviously something about PKR, either PKR what PKR shows credit card company my credit card company doesn't like, or PKR doesn't like my credit card company for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing with the PKR. It just overloads the visual interface with stuff that simply isn't relevant in the online world. I mean, when I'm sitting at a live poker table, looking at the other players is a relevant part of the poker experience. I get information from that. I get it's part of the social experience. Being physically present with the other players and interacting with them in a physical sense uh, is a key part of the experience. When PKR replicates an avatar of somebody across the table from me, none of the practical reasons for me to look at that person are there anymore. There's no tells. There's no physical tells that I'm getting anymore because it's all pre-programmed responses. There's um, no social interaction because again, it's all pre-programmed interactions, and the only social that you get is in the chat window still, anyways. Um, I suppose the place where you might add a virtual or you might add a live part of the live social experience to the virtual table is um, is this headset stuff. Being able to talk to people with your voice and hearing what they say instead of typing in a chat window might actually be good. I don't really want to go as far as webcams because I think one of the points of online poker is that you can sort of jump around your room when you hit your full house and have a little dance party and nobody else is able to see that. So I think that's a good thing, and I don't think that I want to get rid of that. So webcams, full webcams, I don't think are the way to go with online poker. But I think having a voice interface where you can talk is something that's might work out well in that. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, I think that really I'm not getting there's really no point in me having that person sitting in front of me in the PKR experience. No rake back available. Yeah, that is. I mean, I think I've heard about people getting rake back when you're much higher VPP level, like when you're, when you're gold stars and platinum stars and things like that, supernova stuff. But yeah, down at the sort of peon level, we certainly there are no rake backs that way. I sort of look at um, I do get rake back to a certain extent from stars. I mean, there's things like the now obviously this isn't a huge amount, but things like the $10 prize for 750 VPPs in the course of a year and so on. Um, that's a certain amount. That sort of thing is a certain amount of rake back. I play the PSO, the Poker School Online leagues. Whatever money I make out of that, I sort of look as rake back because it's all free rolls. There's nothing. I'm not paying them any money to get into these, and they're essentially giving me free money back when I place in a tournament and when I get a monthly prize. So I sort of look at those as a version of rake back as well. But yeah, I mean, I agree they don't actually have anything that's there's no place where you can get part of the rake that you've paid back, and they do seem to have reasonably high. I mean, 10% is a pretty chunky rake. Sort of no matter where you are. I think that a lot of um, uh, I just think it's yeah, it is a pretty chunky rake for sure. Um, but you're gonna get raked no matter where you go. So, alrighty, we'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's been a pretty slow few hands here over the past little while. Haven't really been getting a lot of playable hands. This one obviously would have been one to be involved in, frankly. I think rather than not getting many playable hands, what's been happening is that I've been telling stories too much and just folding without really looking and paying attention and spending much time evaluating what sort of hands I had. So I should probably change that. Pair of tens with an ace-7. I don't really like how strong I am on either end of that, frankly. There is a heart, ace hearts, obviously, which gives me some value, but I don't think I'm strong enough to raise pre-flop there, and I think that I'm gonna be giving away chips too often when I just call, when I just limp in pre-flop there. At this stage, my stack is just under 10 big blinds, so I have to be a little careful about where I get involved. Still 3,000 people-ish left in the tournament, 770 pay out. So we need to We need to move somewhere, but I don't think we would have had a full house on that. No, we would not have had a full house on that. So we would have lost that hand as well. This one is probably closer. I've got the two flush draws, one of them with the ace, pair of sixes, and a marginal low draw with the six ace. So I think it's one that I'm going to put some chips in and see what happens. Well, we obviously did. That's obviously not the flop we're looking for really on that. Does give us a marginal low draw with the 8-6-4 ace. I think I'll see one more street on this just to see what develops. The backdoor hearts I'm looking at as well. If we get another heart, it could be something worth playing on. This is pretty speculative though, I think. So there's the heart we were looking for. Don't really think we can get away from the hand now. Ah, well that actually is clearly the card we were looking for. It does not allow us to play for low. It does, however, give us the second nut flush. So I think we're definitely playing for our stack with the second nut flush. And we're taking it down. So 30-70 for the top main pot, main high. 5, 6, 6, 7, clearly something that we want to get involved with in a high-low situation. Two clubs obviously are nice there as well. Got tons of straight possibilities. It's just a really pretty looking hand. It's a little high, a little on the high end obviously for your low draw, but there's just so many straight draw possibilities. We've backed into the 8 high or the 3, 4, 5, 6 up and down. No flush is developing this time around for us, but we still got the up and down straight draw. A deuce or 8 gives us the straight draw. That is neither a deuce nor an 8, which means we are left with a pair of 6s and a pair of 10s. This is probably never going to win us the pot, and we don't have a low. There is no low, so I think getting out of the pot's the only thing we can do to a bet there. Nice hand by Mac Daddy there. Suited ace, ace 6-3, ace jack for broadways. We're going to be playing this, I think. I don't think playing this, nor do we want to avoid playing this hand. Ace 3 is obviously the second nut low, but it can pretty easily develop into the nut low when deuce comes on the flop. 3 comes on the flop, however, it is not a good situation for us. What other avenues would we possibly have in this hand? I think just getting out here. When the 3 pairs, that's about the worst possible situation for us. It gives us a crappy high. It kills our low. Now, obviously, the jack gives us 2 pair, which is potentially of value, but not when a straight takes the high hand. So we were pretty thin there. Pair of aces with a deuce. The fact that we're rainbow is immaterial in this case. I think that putting money into this pot is the way to go because we've actually got a strong. The deuce sucks, obviously. But I think that we're still. Yep. Nice example of where ace-ace is a bad hand in Omaha high-low. We're getting involved in this one for sure. The ace-deuce again. Even at 400. We're putting our whole stack in the middle on this hand. Obviously now with this flop. That worked out okay. Ended up tying for low. We did take the high pot for the main high pot with kings and fours. Get out of that one, I think. Not enough value. Not enough value in that one, I gotta say. Frank Stone's taking her down. Ace 5-5, two suits. I think we got to play that one. I'm going to check through one more card. It's a card I like, obviously, plays into my low draw. We're going to put money in this pot. Ace 3 is the only hand that's ahead of me for low at the moment. There's obviously a 3-5 for the straight now that takes my high. I mean, I don't really have a high that I'm playing at the moment, but I don't really think I can get away from the hand. Wow. That was unfortunate. We're definitely getting involved again. Ace 3-3. We've got. Oh, that's a very nice flop for us, obviously. Not the best in the world for high because if the five comes, we could easily be losing to higher straights in this case. But I don't think there's any excuse not to put all of our chips in the middle. We've got the nut low right now. So we broke even there. Another ace 3-3 hand. We're definitely going to get involved with this as well. We are putting all of our chips in the middle, I think, again. I wish it was the ace that was suited, not the queen, but hey, can't have them all. Can't have everything. When you only have 586 chips, you cannot have everything. The ace is obviously not really a card I wanted to see there because it means that the deuce 3 has just capped out my low hand. But it does give me a reasonably good high, capping out my 3 there. So I mean, with only 86 chips, there's really no way that I can't be involved in this hand. So I have to be involved in the hand. I think I might be done. I think I might be done. Yep, we are done. We are done. 2247th. Not the best result in the world, but not the worst result in the world either. Would have been nice to cash, but not much you can do when these things, sometimes it just doesn't work out for you, and you play the hands and the draws don't come, or you play the hands and somebody else sucks out at the end of the day. But yeah, that's the way it goes. So it was good to see. I'll be back with Sunday Raz later on. I think we're not doing a weekly challenge this week. Roz is usually the one that sets those up for me, and she's had a bit of an issue recently. If you've been watching the news, you might know what I'm talking about. There was a typhoon in the Philippines last week, and it caused a huge amount of damage. And I'm not entirely sure if she was. She didn't say anything about being injured or hurt in it, but I think that she's spending a lot of time helping family and friends in the community and stuff like that, so she's not around very much. So we didn't get one made for this week, but we are going to play it next week for sure, and we've got a Badoogie set up already for a fixed limit Badoogie, so that'll be a fun time. I am back later for the Sunday Raz, though. So thank you for coming and hanging out. It's kind of disappointing for Hammer that it actually happens quite a bit when you go away, Hammer, that I bust out while you're gone. So maybe you should just never leave the stream. I think that's really what this ends up meaning, is that you should just never leave the stream. But nonetheless, I'm afraid that I have busted and I'm done, and it is time to sign off. So thank you very much. Come back tonight in approximately 7.5 hours time for the Sunday Raz. I'm out.